In a world where extreme competition exists everywhere, what does it take to have success in your career and in life? Join me, Nirvana Chaudhary, as I sit down with some of the most successful individuals to discover the secrets to the success, what continues to drive them, and to hear a few exclusive stories in the process. What drives them and their success code, their mantra for making it bigger. Hello everyone, this is Nirvana Chaudhary once again. I'm back with my podcast, Making It Bigger. Today I have with me someone so special, someone who sort of, saw the entire digital growth coming in way ahead of our times. Someone who took a bold step and founded one of the most successful e-commerce companies in India, Snapdeal. Apart from that, Kunal has been very instrumental in working with, incubating, investing in early startups. So he's a true serial entrepreneur. Mr. Kunal, well, thank you so much for coming for this podcast.
Thanks for having me, Nirvana. Great pleasure being here with you.
So Kunal, my first question, Snapdeal. It's made it, you serial entrepreneur, having studied at UPenn, having seen the world. I think you had a small stint at Microsoft as well. I would like to hear that story. But what is your success mantra? What is it that really drives you?
It's a good question, and depending on different phases of one's professional career, the success mantras also keep evolving. They're often shaped by the experiences someone has. They're shaped by the mistakes someone makes and the times when we fall. But if I were to reflect back on my journey of entrepreneurship or investing, what I've realized is two things. One is the value of focus. Oftentimes, we are always encouraged to do many things, try many things. While that is true, it is important to clearly define the guardrails in which we operate, right? So it's the value of focus I've seen is tremendous, because that's how one becomes really good at what one is doing. But at the same time, the only way to successfully focus on something and create a good outcome is by understanding oneself as well. I think one of the biggest elements of any journey, professional, entrepreneurial, or as an investor, one has to ensure that one recognizes what your own strengths and weaknesses are. And, entrepreneurs often think that they are invincible and they can do everything and they're good at everything. They're actually fantastic at everything, but that is never the case. And it takes only a certain amount of experience and a certain amount of errors along the way that one realizes that, you're good at something. You obviously have some superpower, but you're not great at many other things. And hence it becomes very critical to very proactively seek out other people who actually have the superpowers that you lack, right? So as an example, some entrepreneurs realize that they are exceptional at building technology, but not that great at operations. And rather than forcing their hand at becoming great at operations, it's better as soon as they can to surround themselves with one or two or more people who are exceptional at operations, who enjoy it, who really have shown a great track record of success in it, or vice versa, right? Sometimes there are founders or entrepreneurs who are great at just, the drill of making the company work every single day. But they lack the vision of what a product should be. And in that case, it's important to surround oneself with someone who's a product specialist. So recognizing, while focus is very critical, knowing which business you are in and why you're doing what you're doing is important. But at the same time, to succeed post picking your focus, one needs to surround oneself with complementary skill set folks.
I just couldn't agree more, Kunal. I say this a lot. You are the sum of the four people you always associate with, average of the four people. And I also give an example of companies like Alibaba, companies like Apple, companies like you talk about the most successful companies. Steve Jobs might had might have his expertise in building a product or sales and marketing, but it was the other partners who specialize in tech, right? So I completely agree. One thing I am personally learning is, I mean, considering myself to be an entrepreneur as well, you get excited and you feel you can do everything, right? You see an opportunity where there's a demand and you can fulfill it with a supply. But over a period of time, I too have realized exactly focus, prioritizing, and instead of doing too many things, focusing on few things and doing that right, scaling that up. I've learned that over the last 3-4 years, and especially during COVID time. So absolutely, I couldn't agree more, and we are obviously ever evolving and learning so much in life. Kunal, you started an e-commerce initiative, Snapdeal, in 2010, right? And this was just when the world was just slowly getting into the groove of things. How do you see today, 10 years later, 11 years later, how do you see the landscape changing, not in India, but in the South Asian demographic, in the Indian subcontinent?
Yeah, so I think the lot has changed in the last 10, 12 years, right? Like, more things have changed than they have not changed, right? Very few things are the same as they were in 2010. I remember in the early days of e-commerce, in 2010, India, I think, had between 5 and 10 million internet users total, right? To put it in perspective, we added more customers in the last 1 year, new customers in the last 1 year than India had as internet users across a nation of 1.3 billion people in 2010. So, in the early days, I remember just convincing consumers to come and shop was such a task. We didn't have these really well-honed AI, ML algorithms that Facebook has. Google search was there and you could advertise there. But, Facebook had just a few million users in India at that point in time. So there were no effective ways of actually reaching consumers also back then. Then on getting brands and merchants to sell their merchandise online was in itself such a task. I remember in the early days, I used to go to the wholesale markets and the local markets of Delhi and, literally plead with the shopkeepers that please sell we'll take the photos ourselves. Please allow us to sell your products online. And, here is a deposit that for the first 5 orders, here is the money. Don't fear the fact that we'll collect the order from you and then never pay you. Right? So there was all this concern and mistrust that existed because people I don't blame them. They hadn't seen what e-commerce was or could be and how it could transform their businesses. Even consumers used to tell us that, Indian consumers, maybe they'll buy a phone online, but they can never, ever buy a piece of clothing online. We just can't see Indian consumers buying shoes online. So we used to hear all these things, and now obviously, billions of dollars of such merchandise is sold annually online in India. So a lot has changed. Technologies have changed, processes have changed, operations have changed, regulations have changed. Most importantly, the size of the market has changed. And much of that has been precipitated by the influx of 4G and soon 5G, which is super affordable, right? Like we have across the South Asian subcontinent, we have seen that internet services have become pervasive and pervasively cheap, also affordable, right? Smartphones have become pervasively affordable as well. There are huge populations. All the countries are huge consumption countries where there's a lot of domestic consumption that happens as a part of their GDP. There are rising aspirations across South Asia, right? All countries in South Asia, you can sense that there is this, they're all young countries, a lot of high population of youthful people who are tech savvy, who've grown up in the era of mobile phones and data connectivity and social media and e-commerce, etc. For them, this is all very natural. And hence, the next 10 years, 20 years is going to have such a tectonic plate shift towards more digital economies in South Asia, more than probably in Western economies, where we will be conducting a lot more of our business as consumers on a day-to-day basis consuming food, acquiring products, consuming various types of healthcare services, edtech services. So many things in our lives as consumers in the South Asian subcontinent will be driven by technology. And e-commerce is obviously generally the starting point of this revolution in most countries, right? Because retail is generally one of the largest industries in any country, and that ends up being the first one that gets digitized. And the same has happened in the West, same is happening in the South Asian subcontinent also right now. Traditional retail has its limitations. It has its advantages also of the touch and feel and trust and customer service. However, it has its limitations in terms of its reach and footprint. So obviously e-commerce is increasingly an enabler. I do feel that e-commerce will eventually grow very differently in India and the South Asian countries versus the West, where it will likely have a much bigger omni-channel element because of just this touch and feel and the trust that consumers in South Asia feel with shopping offline. And I don't think that will change structurally for a long time. We're talking decades. I think the final point I want to make on the value of e-commerce in South Asia, where we know that we are homogeneously not as wealthy compared to other developed countries. E-commerce is actually an incredible social equalizer, where it doesn't matter what your income levels are. It doesn't matter whether you live in a big city or a small town or a village. You actually get respectful, great quality of service irrespective, right? Whether you're a farmer who makes 20,000 rupees a month or 50,000 rupees a month in a small town or a village, or a very affluent city dweller, you get to choose from the same selection. If you call up a call center, they will address both of you as sir or madam and respectfully. You'll get products delivered to your doorstep. Many of these consumers in small towns have never had such quality of service in their lives. They've never had someone come and deliver something to them, right? And more importantly, if something goes wrong, traditionally, with more traditional businesses, they would have to run around and get harassed in addressing their problems. Now they just have to press a button on an app and someone comes to their home and picks it up for free and gives them a refund or a replacement. The level of trust that builds in societies, our societies particularly, the level of respect it gives to all our people, I think it's a great social equalizer impact that e-commerce is having in South Asia.
Such an interesting perspective. I never really saw it from that angle. And because you're dealing with, let's say, the bottom end of the pyramid, who would be your real growth drivers going forward, the mindset, what they would be going through. Very, very interesting. Kunal, today we talk, especially in our generation, we talk a lot about spirituality and, about giving back and all of that. A lot of people, especially entrepreneurs I talk to, they feel that, spirituality is fine, you got to be meditating, zen, have a zen, aura in you, blah, blah, blah. But CSR, the fact that we're already creating this gap in the digital divide, or we're already creating employment, that to us is corporate social responsibility. What are your views on spirituality and CSR?
Yeah, I think I may have more cogent thoughts on CSR than spirituality. I think all of us have our own respective ways of finding peace amongst the chaos that generally surrounds us. For me, spending time with my family, spending time with my children, that gives me a sense of zen, as you said, more than probably anything else. And there are different paths to finding peace and finding some mental catharsis. But for me, that is very clearly just spending time, quality time, unstructured time, unconstrained time with my immediate family. I think on the concept of CSR, as relatively younger companies, we unfortunately don't give it as much thought as we should. But the way I think about CSR is sort of two parts, right? One is like more classic CSR, which is corporate level CSR, where companies would give a part of their profits and put it in various worthy causes. And the other is what I call like business model CSR, right? Where I feel that particularly for technology companies like ours and others that touch lives of millions and millions of people every day, being able to integrate an element of CSR in the business itself, in the business model itself, tends to create this flywheel of positive societal impact that probably even just writing a check sometimes would not.
Absolutely.
And so at least we've been very focused on the latter, where, for instance, when see, what are we good at? We are good at taking a product from point A and getting it to point B quickly and cost effectively. That's our USP as a company. That's what any e-commerce company does. So our thought always has been, how can we use that capability that we built over years and the reach we built of tens of millions of consumers who shop from us? How do we leverage the reach and the capability to deliver goods cost effectively across the country? And how do we leverage that for doing good for society? And over the years, we've done many things, right? We've provided, like when we've had in the winters, you could have, we've had consumers send postcards to soldiers using our service. In various parts of the country where children don't have access to stationery, the consumers can have ordered a lot, like tens of thousands of kits of stationery on our platform, and then we've delivered them on their behalf to students across the country. And similarly, many other examples like that. Or at checkout, you could make a small donation of 5 rupees or 10 rupees to a particular cause, right? And once that accumulates to a large enough number, we would give it to the agreed cause. What this does is it leverages the flywheel that already exists in the business, and you're just riding a whirring like flywheel, and as a result, the impact becomes quick and significant. And so that's been our focus, and it has worked quite well all this time, and we tend to keep doing it.
It's great, Kunal. Again, it's coincident. I was speaking to the folks at Alibaba, and they're focused a lot on impact investment in a business not related to their core. And I said, the kind of platform you have, the kind of network you have, you're able to do exactly what you're talking about it. And I guess they were like, yeah, maybe we should think about that. But thank you so much, Kunal. It's been such a wonderful, I've learned so much. It's been so wonderful speaking to you. I wish you, your entrepreneurial journey, your journey as a father, all the best. And I look forward to talking to you soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nirvana. It's a pleasure being here.